Do we live in a sexist country? Laura?
Yes.
OK, that's enough. Our next question is going to be...
I mean...
elaborate.
Obviously, you know, I'm being flippant, but the evidence is overwhelming. It doesn't matter whether you look at anecdotal evidence, whether you look at the number of people who came forward there within, you know, a day or two just for that filming, the anecdotal evidence that floods into my website, the Everyday Sexism Project. We've got over 80,000 people's experiences. Or whether you look at figures like the fact that 30,000 women a year lose their job because of maternity discrimination, that 1 in 3 16 to 18-year-old girls experiences unwanted sexual touching at school, that a poll just this week showed that 47% of female university students experiences groping, sexual assault under UK law, that 2 women a week are killed in the UK by a current or former partner, 85,000 women raped every year. I could go on and on and on. I don't know how you could argue otherwise.
Okay. Gentleman here. It's
the statement you made a moment ago about two women a week being killed by a partner or former partner. I know you have said that in the past, back in December at a TEDx talk you held. That has been found to be false according to government statistics. And Mike Buchanan of the political party Justice for Men and Boys has made a public challenge for you to rescind that statement and contacted you directly, and since then you have said nothing.
Obviously, don't do that. How would you respond to that, Laura?
I'd advise anybody to Google Mike Buchanan and have a look at the very many and very detailed rebuttals that have been made of his work. He spent his time writing blog posts where he makes fun of people who talk about feminism but doesn't make any kind of logical points against. I think it's really very damaging, though, on a national platform like this to try and suggest that a national figure, a very widely accepted and respected figure, like the figure that over 2 women per week are killed by a current or former partner, is incorrect. I think it's very dangerous to go around suggesting that statistics like that aren't true. That is absolutely the official figure.
What confuses me about this question is that we've taken the term sexism and we're lumping a lot of things in together into one big steaming pot. Now, any conscientious, civil-minded member of society should absolutely balk at sexual objectification of women, domestic violence, insulting, vile behaviour. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if a man says it, if a woman says it. Collectively, as a society, we should absolutely object to that. But the problem is that when we're talking about, the question that you asked was, is this a sexist society? This is nothing, we're not talking about, is this a society that propagates domestic violence? We have to decide where the lines of demarcation lie. Now, for us to suggest that we're a sexist society suggests that there is absolutely no scope for women to make great inroads into all areas of professional life. And just to throw a few statistics back, and bearing in mind, as the young man said, and as Laura answered back, you can make stats work any which way you want, if you want to. Politicians would tell you that better than me. But, sorry, cheap gag. But
I don't think you're really sorry either.
But the point is that girls regularly outperform, women regularly outperform boys at school. There are more women going to university now than men. My own son anecdotalising it, he's just started a course at university. There are 70% of the course is women. It's a medical course. 70% are girls. They all needed really high grades to get on that course.
So why aren't they running all the companies then?
So maybe, I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you why.
Go on,
So let me tell you exactly why. There are 2 very good answers to that. Either because they don't want to, or because they can't. Right? Now, there are 2 very good reasons. OK, no, I'm not condescending, and that's the problem, because the problem with the sexism debate is it degenerates into something very personal very quickly, with a bit of name-calling there. It's not helpful. The fact is that, like it or not, biology makes us different. It doesn't make us better, and it doesn't make us worse. It makes us different. I'm sorry, Laura, but once you have children, you may not want to have...
OK.
I didn't mean you personally. Once once you have
once
kids,
you grow up, you'll agree with us.
Sorry. Once a woman has children, she may find that all the greatest plans that she had for pursuing her career, maybe she'll be challenged biologically by the way she feels. Now, you cannot legislate for how you feel once you have kids. And the second thing is, very quickly, is that we live in a meritocracy. And I don't know about you in the audience, particularly the women in the audience. I don't want to get a job because I'm fulfilling somebody's female quota or women's shortlist. I want to be the best person for that job.
OK. So that's Angela's experience. Yes, lady here.
I'd just like to say, Laura, I completely 100% agree with you. As I've grown up, I'm 16 at the moment, I've noticed that more and more I'm witnessing more sexism. There's an area in my street that I actually avoid because I get wolf whistled, which is ridiculous. Also, I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and earlier this year I attended a film networking class aimed at 16 to 18-year-olds. And in that class, there are two male directors who are very successful. And I asked both of them, what can I do to achieve the absolute best I can in this industry? And they both said to me, you've got to make relationships with other people, and by that, love, I don't mean sleeping around. I was with two other boys my age. Neither of them received the same advice. They were like, oh yes, talk to these people, look at these people, sign up for this apprenticeship. He was basically assuming because I was a female, the first thing I do in a professional situation was to go and sleep with someone to promote myself. I haven't even entered the world of work yet, and that's given me an insight into thinking, actually, what is in between my legs is going to determine how well I'm going to do in an industry. And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Terrible way What's your experience been as a female politician, Leanne? How have you found it? I mean, famously, there are not as many women in politics as perhaps there should be if you look at the sort of nationwide statistics.
No, it's a man's world, there's no doubt about that. Even though in our National Assembly in Wales there are many more women and there are many more women in the Cabinet, and we were at one point a gender-balanced institution, which is something which I'm very proud of. But nonetheless, there is definite sexism within the world of politics. And if you look at the House of Commons, well, you only need to look at the benches to see the gender imbalance there. And I think I just wanted to come back on one of the points that was made here about girls outperforming boys in school, girls outperforming boys in university. But then what we don't see is women heading organisations, becoming the chief executive. And whichever sector that you look at, it's men that dominate at the top, on the boards and all the rest of it. And I'm afraid until that situation is reversed, then we have to conclude, and I agree with what Laura said, we have to conclude that we live in not just a sexist society, but we also live in a racist society, a homophobic, transphobic society, an ageist society. There is a lot of discrimination out there that we should actually not be prepared to put up with.
So you say until we reverse that, but how do we go about reversing that? Because Angela just said she doesn't want to get a job because of a quota.
Well, I think Angela said there are two reasons why women don't get to the top. One is that they don't want to, and another is that they can't. And I would say that there are lots of institutional barriers stopping women. There are glass ceilings in organisations preventing women from reaching the top. And
so you don't think it's a meritocracy?
No, I definitely don't think it is. And having children does have something to do with it, because who provides the majority of the childcare in society? And I don't. In my own family, my partner provides the childcare, or otherwise I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do. But in the average family, in the average community, it is women who take that job, not just looking after the children, but looking after elderly relatives as well.
Yeah, coming from this gentleman here.
Wait for there, please.
It's there.
One idea that seems to be purported a lot is, in terms of sexism, yes, we do live in a sexist country, but one thing the video didn't help with is the fact that people tend to believe that sexism works one way. So the video only featured women but nobody turns around and says, okay, what about ideas like the disposable male genital mutilation, which everybody is totally fine with. You know, you get circumcised. The idea to man up if you're not strong, if you aren't doing things. Men are expected to do the heavy lifting.
I would accept
it works both ways, and that video, you know, for one, didn't help, and quite a lot of responses isn't helping.
That's such an important point. This isn't about a gender war. Look at this panel. Isn't it amazing? We've got an anti-feminist woman and a feminist man. This is, like, how mental is that? Only on BBC Three would you have such a random panel as this. Not non-feminist, sorry. But so this isn't about gender wars. And of course, and do you know what? Men are the victims of patriarchy. Men are the victims of sexism, even though, let's not be silly, the majority of the time it's women who are on the receiving end.
It's probably a good time to hear from some men who've got in touch from home. Jack, this kind of proves, you're talking about the film we showed before where people are giving examples of everyday sexism. This proves women are always moaning, ha-ha, exclamation mark. Jokes aside, some of these were offensive, but I feel like a lot of this is banter, being misunderstood. I guess women have no sense of humour. And another one, Eddie, who says, one I get all the time, what do you expect? He's just a man. Omar, your response to that one?
I think it's just crazy that that's even, like, it's even uncomfortable listening to it, isn't it? I mean, the fact that within seconds of Laura introducing the debate, within seconds, and, like, respect to you for bringing up statistics, and I'm not having a go or anything. Like, well done for even coming to this show. I wouldn't do this when I was 18. I was in my bedroom, yeah? But I was, yeah? So well done. But the fact that within a second, the debate descended into, well, actually, if you look at the statistics, there's this. That would never happen with anything else. Leanne was talking about different types of discrimination. If we said, is there racism in the UK? You'd never have a room of people going, well, actually, I think there was black people just like to moan. We'd even... we'd never do that! We'd never do that! But there's something about our culture that has made sexism just a bit of banter, you know? No, if someone had tweeted in saying, oh, these blacks just like to moan, straight away, someone would be thinking, right, I think that's a criminal offence. With women, it probably is, it was just a lad, it's just a lad.
Okay. Angela?
Ridiculous! Ridiculous!
Your enthusiasm, but try not to wallop me. I know it's unintentional. Can I just sort of nose this into the fact that you said, is society sexist? If we look at just the account of you in terms of the way it seems to be a one-way journey, there are whole advertising campaigns which are built upon a culture of women ogling men. A certain fizzy drink. Women stop. They stop at I'm sorry, I didn't do the advert. They stop at their lunch break because the window cleaner's going to take his shirt off and open this can of fizzy drink. Women on their hen nights queue up to go and see acts like the Chippendales. They're allowed to catcall, they're allowed to throw things at them. Can you imagine if the same thing happened the other way around?
Yeah, or if they're... It does happen. Yes.
I'm talking about an advertising campaign where a woman stopped to have her can of fizzy drink and revealed herself in a wet T-shirt while everybody in the office looked at.
The flake advert?
The flake advert was supposed to be something sort of terribly beautiful and romantic. You know, it wasn't about women.
Also, no one from Cadbury's is here to defend themselves, so Laura.
Angela, I would try and give you back the list of examples in which women are objectified and sexualised and dehumanised, but we'd be here all night and we don't have time. I know that's suggesting that comes up from those comments online, though, is that this is about an attitude problem as well. This is about the way that society treats women. This is about the way that we even have these discussions and talk about these things. It's about that tendency to dismiss these ideas. We're talking about issues as diverse as sexual harassment to domestic violence to rape, and people are saying, don't you have a sense of humour? You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous to suggest that women are only 4 of the top 100 directors of top 100 companies in the UK because they either don't want to or they're not good enough. Is that really the problem, girls? That you just can't be bothered or you don't have the talent?
Hang on, Omar.
I object to this kind of, come on, girls, we're all... this stoking up of kind of, you know, we're all militant women together. I think you actually strike a huge own goal. It's entirely counterproductive to kind of rank it up into some kind of militant response. I never for a second suggested that, you know, sexual objectification, domestic violence were not issues that had to be taken seriously. That was the very preface of my comments. But feminism, modern day feminism seems to edit as it listens, and that way it becomes entirely counterproductive. There are genuine things, genuine sexist things in society that as society as a whole we have to fight against. But you cannot put issues of domestic violence, which is an enormous problem, alongside whether a woman should feel totally objectified if somebody calls her love or petal or is wolf whistled at. It depends whether she feels threatened, and we have to, as a society, define very carefully the difference between, yes, not having a sense of humour, but actually feeling threatened and when there are very serious issues of personal safety at risk. And that's what feminism does not do.
These issues are on a spectrum, and actually feminism tackles them as a spectrum. If we see women as second-class citizens, if we teach young girls in the street to grow up and think it's okay for men to shout at them, to shout about their breasts, if we show a naked woman on page 3 of our biggest-selling national newspaper, of course that's connected. Of course, and please let me finish, of course that's... I'm suggesting that there are connections. I'm not suggesting that somebody goes out and sees page 3 and commits an assault. Of course I'm not. Of course it's not that simple. But we have to look at the context in which we're seeing an epidemic of sexual violence and violence against women. And we have to look at the attitudes that are at the base of these things. We have to look at the fact that we live in a society that sends incredibly intense messages about women and their role in society from a very young age. And the fact that those kinds of ideas and attitudes about women are also at the root of some of the bigger problems.
I think it's...
Can I use an example?
Yeah, just have a quick
Just
check on
directly
online.
related to what you were saying. This is from Abby, and if we're talking about banter, my 16-year-old hears the word rape used by boys at school on a regular basis, but of course it's just dismissed as banter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely disgusting.
Is that part of the same culture?
No, I think we have to be very, very... Yes, we have to be clear about what's being used as banter. There is a big difference between somebody rather patronisingly calling me petal and somebody, and a 16-year-old using rape as if it's some kind of easily dismissive term.
So what if it was a racist? What if it was the racist equivalent of petal, which is another P word? Would you also say that that's nothing? And we should just
it's entirely different. And I
Why is
think
it entirely different? It's discrimination. It's 50% of the country waging war on the other 50%.
Are you saying...
Is it?
The more serious things from the things that you don't see are more serious, then why shouldn't we also be able to fight things at every level of the spectrum? Why shouldn't we be able to tackle sexism and sexual harassment in the street?
You can, of course you should. There's a massive difference between tackling sexual harassment in the street and looking at things that are almost trivial and trivialise the big things that you need to fight for and that we all need to fight for in order to make sure there is equality between men and women. So, for example, very quickly, the campaign, I think it was last year or earlier this year, about having more women on banknotes. What a spectacular waste of time and energy. Make sure women have the exact number of banknotes in their pocket as men. Yes, that's a campaign I would absolutely endorse and support. But wasting their time, I think sometimes modern-day feminism and sexism spoils for an argument to look for.
OK, I want to come into our audience now. Thank you, Angela. Yes, lady here.
I just want to go back to the point about banter. Banter I have with my colleagues, with my friends. I don't get banter from strangers on the street. And I hate walking down the street and being yelled at, being told to smile, love, it might never happen. You don't know what my life is like. And I just think, like Laura said, this is symptomatic of a bigger picture. If we don't stop the street harassment, we won't stop anything else.
OK. Yeah, gentleman here.
I think you only need to look back at history, look at the suffragette movement. Like, people lost their lives for the right for the women to vote, and I think it's really wrong that, like, some males trivialise calling someone, like, babe on the street. I think you need to look at the bigger picture. People died for equality, and it should be equal. The country should be equal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
OK, but... OK, so the question was originally obviously about how do we live in a sexist country, and we've identified in many ways in which, you know, women suffer from sexism, but there is nothing, again, talking about the way that men still suffer for sexist opinions, in the way that, for example, you know, there's, like, the fact that homeless people, oh yeah, there is a priority for women, there are... and I'm not saying that, you know, in some cases, like people who have children, for example, they definitely need that kind of support. But, like, there's... your gender shouldn't make you vulnerable by nature, and it's your circumstance that makes you vulnerable.
OK. Yeah, lady directly behind you.
Firstly, with the militant side of feminism, if that doesn't work, then obviously the suffragettes went about it the wrong way.
I went to school.
Secondly,
when
we're looking at feminism, what a lot of people seem to be missing is it's actually both sides of the same coin. Men get sexism because of sexism towards women.
Absolutely.
Men get told to man up because feminism is shown as something bad. Women do good in school because now school has become feminized. Girls are expected to be scholarly, they're expected to do well. As a result, a lot of boys don't put as much effort into it as they see it as something that they shouldn't be doing. It's the same coin, it's just flip sides of it.